that yarn. I made this yarn. I wonder what I should make with all this yarn. I should probably figure that out. I don't know what to make though. Hi, I'm Izzy, aka Lab, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I'm a fibre artist and a textile designer, and I love hand spinning yarn. But as a result of that, I have a lot of yarn, and I'm kind of on a mission to work through some of my stash and turn this beautiful yarn that I've made into tangible, usable objects. So today's video is split into two parts. The first part, I'm going to talk about everything that I spun during Tour de Fleece this year. And then the second part, I'm going to talk you through some plans that I have that I can get started with in the near future using some of my handspun yarn. And then also just want to talk through some project ideas that I'm sort of mulling on for using up some of my stash. So let's get into it. Okay, so in this box here I have all the yarns that I spun during Tour de Fleece, and I'll just talk you through them in order that I finish them and give you all the rundown of how much I spun and how I spun it. Okay, so the first yarn I spun is this lovely 2-ply sort of marl effect yarn. The fibres from this I blended up in my last craft vlog, and there's some fibres, Rolags from Rowan that we did a trade, and then also some recycled sari silk that I blended in a bat for the second ply. Yeah, so this is woolen style prep, and I spun it as a woolen style draft, so a long draw. This is 60 grams of fibre, ended up being 173 meters and 13 wraps per inch, which is like in between a sport weight and a fingering weight. So this turned out very nice. Got a lovely drape to it. So yeah, that's the first yarn. And then the second yarn that I spun is this beautiful 3-ply yarn. So the fibres for this yarn was a hand-dyed braid I bought at the Fibre Festival, hand-dyed by Loom Wool. My first time spinning Polworth is also my first time spinning from a braid, and this was sort of a test spin to see how thin I could do a 3-ply. So this is 114 grams, 240 meters, and ended up as 12 wraps per inch, which is sort of like a DK weight yarn. And I spun this as a worsted style, so short forward draw, and it was a worsted style prep, so it was comb top. This wasn't as thin as I was hoping, so I knew that when I did the other yarn that this was a test for, that I needed to spin my singles even thinner than I had. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I spun it as a fractal. It's sort of self-striping, but because the colours are so similar, not very noticeable. But I think once I've used this, you'll be able to see that self-striping effect a bit better. Okay, and then the next yarn that I spun was this gradient chain ply yarn. So the bat I made was using some hand-dyed fibres from Bella at Spun, and I decided to do it in a gradient bat, and then I wanted to practice chain plying, so I spun it in the order of the colours. And yeah, this turned out so good. I wasn't so sure about the colours at first, but I have a project in mind for this, so, and you'll hear about that later. But yeah, so this is chain ply, 58 grams, 91 meters, and it's about 9 wraps per inch, which is like a light Aran. And yeah, I'm really happy with my chain plying actually. Turned out better than I was expecting. Okay, the next yarn I finished. This. Like, are you kidding me? I think this is like the best thing I've ever spun. So this is a coil ply yarn. So I blended the bat using the fibre pack I bought from Raya at Dancing Cat Meow. and I was going for like kind of whimsy goth textured vibe. It's super silky, super soft. It's got the pops of bright pink mohair from Raya. It's just like like I want to eat this. I want to be this. I wish this was me, you know? Like, I love yarn and I love this. Okay, so the details. So this was 97 grams total, 144 meters, and it ended up being about 9 wraps pinch, the same as the previous yarn, so like a light Aran. I love this and I can't wait to use this. Mwah. Beautiful. The final yarns that I finished were these, which is from a braid that I also got at the Fibre Festival, dyed by Demelzas Delights. So this is a 3-ply sock yarn. Let me tell you, this was an absolute drag to spin because this is what I had tested the other 3-ply for, and I actually managed to spin it a 3-ply fingering weight yarn. It was a drag though, so I don't know how I feel about it. I really like the result, but I did get quite fed up like halfway through, which that's not what you want when you're spinning. You want to enjoy spinning. So my bobbin control wasn't that great, and I had quite a bit left over on 2 separate bobbins, so I decided just to chain ply them so I could have little stripy yarns. So the details of this is this skein is 104 grams, 304 meters, like 14 wraps per inch, that's fingering weight. This little mini is 10 grams, 27 meters, 14 wraps per inch, and the second mini is 14 grams, 45 meters, and 14 wraps per inch. These were all spun as worsted style from the braid, and the total yardage of all 3 of those, like the measurements, is 127 grams, 376 meters, and 14 wraps per inch. The braid was 80% superwash Polworth and 20% nylon, so it's like a specific sock blend. It was a little bit slubby, which wasn't great spinning super thin singles, but the finished yarn, there's only a few little patches where those slubs actually were an issue because the 3-ply just makes it so smooth. I didn't enjoy spinning this one as much as I enjoyed spinning this one, but I am still really happy with it. Okay, so the total length of the finished yarns, of all of them added together, is 1,024 meters, which is just over 1 kilometer. But if I include the individual strands of each yarn of each ply and then the length of the plying length, so this 2-ply yarn, for example, says 2 plies and then there's the plying length, so I times the total yarn length by 3, and then for the 3 plies I times it by 4. If I do that with all of the yarns, it comes out at 3,779 meters or 2.09 miles, which is insane. And I think it's because these are a lot, like this is a lot, and I spun quite thin all of these, which is really slay. Pop them back in there. A little bit sad though, so I spun for the first 2 weeks like pretty consistently, and then I kind of got a wrist injury, so I didn't really spin during the 3rd week. I did a little bit on my spindle spins, but I haven't finished either of them, so I was a little bit sad about that. But having added that all up and going by the length of all of the plies all added together, I'm very impressed and I'm very happy with myself. And yeah, let me know which yarn is your favorite because I love all of them and I can't decide a favorite one, so I want to hear what your favorite ones are because I love yarn and I love talking about yarn. I want to live in this box. Okay, so now it's time for part 2 of this video. I'm going to be breaking this down into 2 sections again. So the first thing I'll talk about is my project plans for my handspun yarn that I'm definitely going to do and I'm like getting ready to do. And then the second half is going to be me going through my commercial yarn stash and just like talking through some potential ideas for me to just be able to use up some of the stuff I've got. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is this project that I have already started. So this is the Loopy Studio scrunchie bag, but the crochet version. As you can see, I've made very good progress on this. I'm like on the second strap now, doing the decreases. But it was this project that has given me a wrist injury, so I've had to stop, which is a little bit sad. Yeah, this is the yarn I've got left. So this is 100% hand spun. My main inspiration for this project was Chloe at Kloserberg Fibres, and like pink and green, slightly mossy vibes. And I have some yarn that I bought from Chloe that I sort of saved for a while. I didn't have a project in mind, but I thought I would use that in this project along with my own pink and green yarns. And like there's some like neon bits, some like green, bright green bits, some slimy bits. And yeah, it's quite textured, it's quite thick, but it like I like that because I might be able to get away with not putting a lining on it. Some of the yarn in this I recycled from my handspun shorts that I made last summer because like I barely wear them and they're kind of too thick and they don't really fit right, so I frogged it and I'm using the yarn in this. So I've no idea when I'll be able to finish that because I'm avoiding crochet at the moment, but that's like quite a lot of handspun yarn that's being used up. So once that's finished, I'm gonna be very happy and gonna feel like I'm actually using my yarn, you know? Okay, so the next project that I want to talk about is gonna be my first ever knit garment. I had originally said that I was gonna knit a cardigan, but I haven't finished spinning the yarn for that, so I'm making a different project instead. Okay, so I'm using some of the yarn that I spun during Tour de Fleece, and my sort of vibe slash inspiration is like whimsy goth, whimsical, very colourful, very fluffy, slightly oversized, quite thick, just like whimsical really. That's the vibe. And the main colours I have is like blue, purple, pink, and this green, like literally the colour of this. And then also some like orangey peachy colours to use up some of my hand spun. So but yeah, some of this yarn was on my shop. Some of it was just like I spun recently. Lots of blues and purples. And then I also got these like peachy, pinky green yarns as well. I've bought some drops brushed alpaca yarn, 5 different colours to hold with my yarn to make it thick enough for the gauge. So the pattern is the Cozy Fit Pullover by Cleone Smith Knits. And the reason I chose this pattern is because there was options for like different yarn weights in the pattern. And the creator very kindly had all the information for the gauge and the amounts listed in the item description. So I've done my little gauge swatches, just seeing how the yarn looks held together. I'll take some better clips to show you. But yeah, it's going to be my first ever knit project. I'm really excited about this. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to make with my handspun yarn is knit socks with the sock yarn that I spun during Tour de Fleece. Pretty explanatory. The pattern I'm going to use is basic 4-ply sock pattern by Winwick Mum. I've chosen this because it's free and there's lots of blogs by this creator explaining how to knit the socks, and then also there's YouTube videos that go with it, so that's the next thing I'm going to make. Next box. So my original first knit garment plan was to knit a cardigan, and I wanted to knit the cardigan with some naturally dyed handspun yarn that's like a DK weight. So I have these 2 yarns spun, and I've got another 2 going on both my Turkish drop spindles. I also have the fibre weighed out and ready, so I'm going to spin this on my wheel in the next month or so. And then I've also got another like fibre pack ready to blend into a bat to then spin as well for this. So I just have a bit more yarn to spin for it, and then I also have these 2 skeins that I might use in it, but I'm not sure yet. It just depends how much how much yardage I can spin from this and like the other yarn. I sort of have the idea of knitting a jumper with this yarn that is sort of like sunsets, like scenic sky view inspired. I want to do like a breed study of spinning different types of wool, and the person I bought this from, Loom Wool, I looked on their website and they have these other braids that I think would go really nicely with this in different fibre types that I could try out spinning those specific fibre types to see whether I like them or not, and then I'd be able to use the yarn from those braids in a really specific project. So it's sort of like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I'll put the images on the screen so you can see. So this is Candy Floss, which is Polworth, and then there was a braid called Pink Storm, which is a BFL braid, and it has the same pink in this, and then like a stony grey, and like a slightly cream colour, which I thought it could go this, that one, which is like blend of this, into like cloudy colours. And then there's a braid called Bookish, which is Cormo, and then it's like the same colours as the Pink Storm, but like more muted and more earthy, so it would go that. And then there was a braid called Cozy Home, which is a rambouillet braid, which is then very earthy, very brown, very grey, which could be the bottom. So I thought I might do that, but obviously that's quite expensive buying 3 braids because they were £15 each, and I've already bought this one, so I'm not sure whether I will do that or not because I have to buy the fibre for it, so kind of defeats the purpose of like dashing down. But I have that idea in mind, so I may do it at some point in the future. Who knows when. Oh yeah, I forgot to say that with like the skyline sunset inspired knit idea, I was inspired by Zuza. I'll put their socials on the screen in the description. Who was knitting with, they were knitting with handspun, knitting like a raglan jumper, and the yarn they had used, it looked like a sky, but this was sort of what kick-started this. I think I'd seen some other creators do it, but I couldn't find it when I was searching for images to reference. But yeah, that was my inspiration for that. So in terms of like other handspun yarn that I have so much, and I kind of don't know what to do with it. So if you have any project ideas that you think are really good, please let me know in the comments because I'm really open to suggestions. And I just want to use this yarn because it's just in boxes, which is kind of sad. So this box here is the yarn that used to be for sale on my Ko-fi shop. I closed my Ko-fi shop because I'm going to launch a website soon and I wanted to close the shop. But some of this yarn, like these blue ones for example, I may potentially use them in the whimsical jumper project in case I need more yarn to meet the size that I want to make. And then I also have these blue clays which I may also use in that project. This yarn that I spun but during Tour de Fleece sort of matches this. So like in my head when I've been going through my yarn, I've been trying to like put together things that like match. Because I'm getting into knitting now, I think I might like to make either a woven or a knit pouch to put my knitting needles in, because I have a crochet hook case, but I kind of want to make a knitting needle case because it's just a way of using yarn. And I love handspun pouches. They are so cute. Chloe at Fibre Art by Chloe has made some really nice handspun knit pouches. They're sort of inspiring me to do that. Sort of in the realm of pouches, I've seen quite a lot of people make the Ribka pouch pattern, like the fish pouch pattern by Rat and Sea Witch. And I think that pouch is so cute. I'm starting to use my little digital camera again. I used to use this all the time, and I could maybe make that fish pouch to carry this in, which I think would be so cute and whimsical. I gotta make cute stuff so I can lead a more whimsical life. So I could potentially use this yarn for that. Yeah, I've got quite a few options I could use for that because these are like lace weight. No, they're like fingering weight yarns, which is I think what you need for that pattern. I'm not particularly bothered about relisting a lot of these yarns onto my shop because they've been on there for like 6 months and they just weren't selling, which is fine. So I'm just sort of like working out how to use some of this. Some of it's quite bulky, for example, so I'll only be able to make like little things. I also might like to do some weaving and make like woven purses or like make a scrappy like big bag, not necessarily super big, but like a drawstring bag that like I can use to carry my projects in. In this other box, there's like yarn that I used for weaving, just leftover yarns, and the leftover handspun from my elemental tapestry. So again, I don't know what to do with that. And when I go back to uni in September, I'm going to have like a bunch more yarn, which is the yarn that I spun to do my knit samples for one of our knit projects. So I'm going to have that as well. I might do some more embroidery or weaving with it. I just don't know. Pop these boxes out the way. Pop these boxes out the way. Okay, so in terms of commercial yarn, I don't have all that much. I've got this one box which is full, and then there's a little bit of naturally dyed yarn in here, like my naturally dyed skeins of yarn, and then the rest of what's in here is like natural wool that I will probably dye. And the naturally dyed stuff, I will either use some of it for my naturally dyed cardigan if I haven't spun enough yarn, or I will save it and I'll use it for my uni projects. So this yarn sort of has a purpose. There's some like lace weight yarn that I bought off of eBay that's waxed, so I'm going to do some machine knitting when I go back to uni with it. That's what's in the top of there. I can't be bothered to open the box. Okay, and then in terms of commercial yarn, most of what I've got in here is like mohair that I bought from Japan, and then also just like some hobby cotton yarn. I think I know what I want to do with this mohair, so I want to crochet the willow pillow pattern, which is by Planet Beck. But obviously I can't do that yet because my wrist is like injured from doing crochet, so I'll have to wait a bit, but I'll probably end up using like all of the mohair that I have, so that's like quite a lot of space from this box. And then like in terms of the cotton yarn, I quite like the idea of doing like a granny square project. Like I could then potentially use some of my handspun yarn scraps as well and just make like quite textured cool granny squares and then use them in a bigger project. Don't know what that could be. I can make like a pillow cover or something. Eloise at Expression L has some really cool like where the granny squares are like each round is like a different yarn and there's like some really textured yarns, so it's like really fun and playful. Yeah, I quite like the idea of doing a granny square project. Like, and I know there's like different types of granny square patterns that you can do. So like there's a YouTube tutorial I did that's like a sun and a moon, and then there's like all the different flower ones. So I might do that and just like gradually make granny squares, and then when I have enough, turn them into something. That's all my yarn. It is mostly handspun yarn, to be fair. I have like 3 and a bit boxes of it. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's everything that I want to say. Thank you so much for watching if you've made it to the end of this video. If you want any project suggestions, let me know in the comment, like knit or crochet patterns, or even weaving projects. All the creators and the patterns and everything that I've talked about will be linked below in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, whimsical day, and I will see you in the next one.